came back, went to Federal School of Arts and Science in Aba, and went back to read law at the age of 17 and graduated by 1986. While I was in law school, my father had passed on. My mother passed on in 1985. So my mother died at 47, my father died at 55. I had a good childhood, good upbringing, from good pedigree. Both of them were educationists of the highest order. Having had an uncle who went to Durham University in the 1940s, and my father went to University of Edinburgh. And I have uncles, who were well educated. So I was born into a family where there were, teachers and educationists. But I chose to read law because I didn't want to become an engineer. And I didn't want to become a medical doctor, or a mathematician, or a physicist, as my parents wanted me. But I chose law, and it has been most rewarding. And after law, after I served in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, and I came to Aba to begin my law practice, I had the opportunity of excelling in business. I had the real opportunity of being one of the major contractors that constructed the assignment to market. I started producing lawyers' wig and gown, set up my law firm. I did quite well. And combining it with politics, I met you in 1989 in politics. Yeah. You're a very good self, Professor Adiele. So, but from there, I progressed. In 1991, when they created Aba South local government, I became the pioneer vice chairman. In 1992, I became the pioneer acting chairman, and I eventually became chairman. Then, while we were trying to plan on recontesting in 1994, there was a military interregnum that removed Dr. Enes Shoneko. Then General Abacha became head of state. Then when he became head of state, every democratic institution was, stopped. Then between 94 and 97, 98, I went back to my law practice. So we started gathering back again politicians and all that. So we now joined one of the 5 political parties established for General Abacha. So our colleagues from Liberal Convention, which I joined in 1989, where I became assistant legal advisor in the old Imo State, we now came over to DPN. And in DPN, I had the opportunity of contesting for the Aba South, Aba North federal constituency, and which I won. And DPN was a Democratic Party of Nigeria then. It was already established in the old Aba division, having won elections into local government councils in both Aba South, Aba North, Okwa East, Okwa West. And even we won a chairmanship seat in Anuchukwu local government. But it was short-lived. General Abacha passed on the following year, so we were not sworn in. Then I was part of the people who formed PDP in 1998 at the grounds of Sheraton Hotel in Abuja. And we came back here and started meeting in the house of late Dr. Anna Esibe. I came with the Ekweme group, PNF. Some other people came from New Era. And the most prominent person from New Era was Dr. Jules Okalu then. From there, he became governor. So, there were a lot of other persuasions. We formed PDP. And I contested that same position in Aba North, Aba South Federal Constituency. But this time around, I wasn't successful. I won in 1988, 99, I wasn't successful. So when Dr. Joseph Okalu, who became the governor of Abia State, invited me and Chuka Odom and appointed us special advisor. There was one other late Dr. Ikoku, who was economic advisor. Then there was the administrative secretary of NECOM, Mr. Theophilus Oji, was appointed permanent secretary, not chief of staff. What he was permanent secretary before the office of chief of staff was created. So basically, you had Dr. Ojos Okalu, Chief Eyina Abaribe, both as governor and deputy governor. Then we as advisors who started that one, I came into that cabinet June 4th. So with all the challenges and everything, by December 1999, Dr. Joseph Okalu nominated me into, to be appointed into the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Physical Commission. But it might interest you, I wasn't interested in that appointment because I kept on, dodging the appointment that he was Dr. Mecha that was sent there, but he didn't make it. So what I thought I would have been in that in Abia then was Commissioner for Works, because I wanted to be a Commissioner of Works to be able to help in the administration. But as God would have it, I wasn't meant to last in that administration because by March 2000, he dissolved he dissolved the State Executive Council. So I said I was the only person saved, because I had my nomination. So I went to Abuja. Eventually, I served at the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Physical Commission from July 2000. And prominently enough, the day I started work was the day they said they were going to resolve oil disputes, between states. I remembered while I served under Ojikal, there was an oil dispute between Abia and Rivers. So I called him. He swung into action, got a consultant, and we had a petition. So that takeoff of that committee was delayed because of the issues I raised. And that was my first sitting in that revenue board, where you had prominent people who were former ministers like Kofreji Olebi, Major General A.B. Maman, so many prominent Nigerians, 36, but I came late from Abia, and I was quite young and vibrant. I said, no, you can't do that, because Abia has some issues with Rivers State. So, and I made some intellectual inputs into it. And it was within the purview of the then Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. When he read my position paper, they agreed to put me in two committees. One to determine the United Nations Convention on Laws of the Sea and everything. So I gave a position paper, the intellectual aspect. Then I was in the committee that came to Southeast, headed by A.B. Mama. There and then, we concluded our assignment there, and then recovered 44 oil wells from Rivers to Abia, and even there were some that are still straddled between Abia and Rivers. Then, remarkably, we got Acre 8, Acre 9, and the other oil wells from Rivers State back to Imo. And those oil wells belong to, those oil wells were being contested by Governor Odili's, community that they were in Rivers State. But I said the courts where they took their matter were in Uguta. If the courts were in Uguta, that means that the subject matter is in Imo. So we gave that ruling. And the oil wells came back, and the revenue of Abia, went high. And I started employing Abians into Revenue Commission. And when there were state offices to be set up, zonal offices, I made a good case. The one that was supposed to go to Imo State was located in Umuahia through my effort on the boardroom. So we got it, and it has remained in the distance. So by 2002, I resigned from the Revenue Commission to contest the Abia South Senatorial primary election under PDP. And the sitting senator then was Senator Dolphus Wabara. We went to the primary election. I scored 880 votes. Mrs. Akanwa scored 96. Dr. Gashona Muta 46. Adolphus Wabara 3 votes. I was declared a winner. So, but there were issues. So President Obasanjo then wanted Adolphus Wabara to become Senate President. So I was asked to step down. I stood down. Then later became one of the lawyers that went to court in favor of Adolphus Wabara. Eventually, when they asked me, some politicians, that I must fight, I said I can't fight my brother. We are from the same Odaba division. So when it came to be, my position became vacant and it was supposed to be replaced. Abia State government then didn't renominate me. There were other people from Abia North that were renominated. But because of the role I played, Wabara approached President Obasanjo. Obasanjo said I should get back. But I said, no, I want to be chairman of Corporate Affairs Commission. But as God will have it, my name was brought. People resisted from Abia here, from the highest level. But eventually, I was reabsorbed. Then I began to make sure that revenue, everything concerning Abia, I did well for the state. When that tenure came to an end, 2005, I thought I wouldn't come back. 2 weeks after, Hamantuku, the chairman engineer Hamantuku of blessed memory now, insisted that I must come back. So I was brought back. I became the chairman of oil and gas, chairman of this, chairman of that. But at the end of the day, Abia and other states were in my mind, while I was discharging my duties. But Abia, #1, because I was representing Abia. I wasn't representing any other state, just Abia. So in 2007, we came here, lost at the election, and then we got to PDP, IPDP. We lost the election to PPA. I wasn't part of the PPA. We lost to T.Org, who used to be the chief of staff. So Chief Onemu Gochukwu went to court. I stood by him. But when it came to nomination of ministers, he nominated me, nominated Colonel Akobondo from the Central, and nominated Professor Diogo. Later Ojo Madekwe was National Secretary of our party. So when they got to screening, I was approved by the committee that this man should be made a minister. And that nomination came from Chief Onemu Gochukwu. So when they looked at my CV and everything, they said, he should be appointed. But late President Yaradua said, no, I have promised Ojo Madekwe, Minister of Ojo, he told Ojo, I promised you that you become Foreign Affairs Minister. John Ode was promised to become Minister of Information. But I went back to my job. The happiness was that I was selected behind me. Because when they had the caucus meeting of Abia PDP there, I wasn't there. There were nominations from Abia South. But they insisted that my name, I should be brought and put on that list, that I was preeminent to go. So I went back to my Revenue Commission job. There were politics of leadership in PDP, So eventually, Chief Vin Obulafo became national chairman of our party. May he so rest in peace. He died recently. So when I knew that my tenure was going to come to an end 2010, I started planning to become senator of our zone. Then Abaribe, who was in the Senate equally, said he was going to run for governor. So we said, okay, I will run for Senate. The election is 2011 and leaving a Revenue Commission 2010. As God would have it, I went to see the national chairman and told him I want to run for Senate. He had no objection. But 2 weeks after, I got a call from him that they want to appoint ministers. I said, sir, I told you I want to run for the Senate. What impact can I make in 13 months? So he cut the phone. After some time, I called him and I got him. Then I realized that late Dr. Jaja Angocha Wachuku left cabinet 44 years as at that 2010. And that he left cabinet a year after I was born. So you can see the gap from 1966 when he resigned till 2010. So I started to become minister, you know. It's all history. Chief Vin Obulafo nominated me. Then I had challenges as minister right from the first day. The workers were on strike. You know, I didn't know what to do. But I asked God to put the right words into my mouth so that when I speak, even my enemies will be confounded by what will come from my mouth. So, and all those things are in the Bible. Look, chapter 21, verse 15, you will see it. So the strike was called off. And then so many challenges. Then after we were, this picture was the last day in cabinet. I think this particular picture, I think, okay, it wasn't the last day in cabinet, but we were dissolved May 30th, 2011. So I was among the first 12 to be returned back into cabinet by President Jonathan. We were 12. You can see the 12 there. Dezani, myself, Bala Mohammed, Orubebe, Onebuchi Chukwu. Oh, Onebuchi was not minister here. Okay, Onebuchi Chukwu, yes. We were 12 of us that were returned. Then I made the second cabinet. And then there were a lot of challenges too. And it was in that year that I was made the Commander Order of Niger, CON, November 2011. I didn't expect it. I didn't lobby, I didn't ask. But the president put my name there. I also remained the CON, Commander Order of Niger. But something remarkable happened. November 2014, I resigned. I came to run for the election here in Abia. I wanted to be governor of Abia with a robust blueprint and what to do, how to turn the Obo River and the bridge and then turn it into a marina and then do urban renewal. Then resuscitate public institutions like primary school, secondary school. The blueprint is there for anybody who is a governor to pick, because I don't think age is on our own side to become governor again. But the blueprint is something that even the low-hanging fruits and everything, I didn't become governor. But I congratulated on the grounds of that primary election. I was the only person out of the people who lost the primaries on that field. And it's a long list. I lost. Mr. Eric Achomakama lost. Mr. Uchoga, Dr. Uchoga lost. FN Wosu, who is the National Welfare Secretary of APC, lost. Mark Wabara lost. Ambassador Muche lost. It was a long list. But the current governor won first. Uche came second. I came third. So to cut the long story short, all of them walked past the governor. I was the only person who shook him. I said, congratulations.
Maybe because he's your brother.
No, the point is that I play a fair game. Since I said, if it's God that made you to win, I expect you to do well. If it's a human being that made you to win, I expect you to do well. And he promised me that he would do well. And I promised that I will come for his swearing in. Then when we left, in this particular place, very remarkable, people who have lost election, we were meeting to see the way forward. Right, Honorable Eric Achonwakama. Whatever I say, I will say it. Came here. And after that meeting, whatever he said, emboldened the other people to go to court. I did not go to court. Rather, I took my political structure, gave to Ibaz. I took people to Umobiakwa. Then when we got to Umobiakwa, I gave money. I remained in the party. I was expecting that having attained the status, the then governor of Abia, Tioji, would have in his mind to invite me to attend meetings. I was excluded. And this thing continued. And what else did I ask him? Since Akopondo has been made minister and I was not going to be reappointed because late Chief Tony Anini had gone to president to say, bring me back. I said, no. Colonel Akopondo is my brother. He was on the list in 2007. Let him go and do the remainder of what was remaining. That I want to be national vice chairman of the party then, PDP, in the southeast. That's the only thing I requested from Ochende. And he was in the presence of Adamu Muazu, national chairman, at one secondary school in along Bende Road in Omar. Because I followed my former boss throughout his campaign, even having lost the election. Until when Senator Nkechi's husband died, PDP people came here, APC people came to they were entertained here. Then, shortly after, I got an invitation from APC. I was southeast to attend a meeting. I said, from politically, that these people wanted me to become irrelevant and everything. And there were other instances which is going to be written in my book. I left because of those type of isolation, political isolation. Because the party then and the governor there, pushed me out of the party. Not that but I felt that since I'm not wanted, after the presidential election, I left. And before I joined the APC, I went to see my former boss with my former colleague to tell him that we were moving. You get what I mean? To APC, and the reason was local politics. So I remained in APC. And I've not insulted our governor, he's governor. And then, but I felt that I would have had more participatory role in the administration, whether I was in PDP or APC. Because what I expected any governor to do in future and currently is that in any state where you have a sitting governor of a particular party, try and expand and get people as council of elders, irrespective of their political parties. Let them come and be part of what you are doing. Are you getting what I mean?
Yes, Honorable, you have a very long profile, and that's a wonderful one. Now, since after you said you handed over your structure to the current governor, who is almost outgoing, who will be going out of the set. They said that is Governor of Ezekiel. Since after then, since the DA, the then governor, could not call you back, did say in anywhere invited you to the administration?
No, let me tell you one thing. You see, as at the time I went to Moabekwa with my people to hand over to him, I was still an active. I was a member of PDP. Look, when When you fail, you have to embrace success. That's what I did. And one politician here, I have run elections, I have passed and I have failed. That makes me a better politician. That you've been winning elections does not make you a better politician. It is when you pass and when you fail, you know that you are now active politician. So you see, the question you asked me, if you are listening to my concluding statement, I said it's always good for an administration, not Abia as an example, to invite people in the state, call them elder statesmen, let them be advising you on issues of policy and other things. Because somebody like me, I pride myself as somebody who has, the government has spent so much money, federal government, on me. The knowledge I have here is so much, a lot, that the only thing I missed was going to NIPS. But I've gone to training abroad. I have 2 master's degrees. I have a PhD from University of Nigeria on public administration and political science, with focus on this and that. Privatization. There is no area that I was not moved between when I was federal commissioner. So I still believe that I have a lot to offer in terms of advice to any sitting governor, whether in Abia or in other states. But this thing that the role I'm not playing in Abia, I'm playing in other states. And okay, to God be the glory.
Yes, because of our time. Now you are in APC. And now you were in the government of former President Goodluck Jonathan.
Yeah.
How can you compare that government, because you played a major role, even as a minister, during Jonathan's regime? How can you compare that government of PDP and what we have currently in Nigeria today?
Look, my brother, there are challenges in every administration. All over the world, we did our best. I keep telling people that if you conclude that President Jonathan failed, all of us failed, because I was part of the team. If you consider him a success, all of us succeeded. What defines a presidency is the people around him. What defines a governorship? President is the people around. So I take credit where we succeeded. But I can't say we did 100%. You cannot really begin to assess the current administration until some people are now looking at, And what impressed me with this current administration of President Muhammad Buhari is that they did not abandon what President Jonathan started with.
Okay.
Perfect. You get? Even if people keep giving narratives in the paper that we just turned the sword, and we did not do something on Niger Bridge. As an expert in public policy, as somebody who has a master's degree in public policy, he still remains that policy of President Jonathan as at that time was to build a second Niger Bridge. And he went steps better than what Obasanjo. He was not the only person who tried to do the second one. But this administration came and finished and started and finished it. So credit should go to both of them. One had a policy to do it. The other one finished it. Even in rail, I listened to former Minister of Transportation give credit to President Jonathan. I mean, Kaduna, Abuja, rail is the... So you give President Buhari the credit of continuity in governance. So he had a policy that made him to continue with other projects that were started before him. Are you getting what I mean? So that means that in the areas he took, we succeeded.
All right. Having been in the corridor of power all this while, and then recently the rail, you talked about the rail. Recently the rail crossed over to Niger Republic, and that of the southeast, as we speak, even the old ones are removed, and nothing is done about it.
Well,
is there any hope?
Let me begin with the fact that Nigeria is big. Even as I speak to you, Nigeria is a big country, the giant of Africa. In those days of head of state, Goa, we were magnanimous enough to give electricity to our neighbors. We continue to donate money to fight for the freedom of South Africa. We played a big brother role. Why can't Nigeria continue to be a big brother to neighboring countries? Except that we took it very far when we ceded Bakassi to Cameroon. But what happened to Niger is that we played a big brother role for the benefit of the country, some thread, between. And we have consanguinity with Niger Republic. The same we have with Chad, and the same we have with Cameroon and all that. And then on this other side, So that it's unfortunate that the rail from Port Harcourt and the coastal rail has been stopped. The details I don't have, but I expected that it should have been done, because during Chief Ojomadekwe, he came with a robust plan, the coastal rail. But during Buhari, it was extended. I mean, what we had on ground was expanded by President Buhari's administration, but that he did not take off. We should know who to hold responsible. Like you asked me questions about labor when I was minister. You find that from either the past Minister of Transportation or the current Minister of Transportation, because government is an institution.
Continue.
So I don't have details of why that one from the...
All right, this administration, there were three cardinal points that this administration focused on. That is security, corruption, and economy. By your assessment, how has this administration failed in these three areas?
Well, currently I can speak about security. Currently the new set of service chiefs are doing well. You see, it behoves on you in the media to play up the successes of, you see, Kaduna, you no longer hear stories about insecurity in Kaduna. The ones in the northeast are coming down. You can see there's a collaboration between the Air Force, Nigerian Army, Navy, and coordinated by the current Chief of Defense Staff, General Iraba. So you can see synergy, and successes are being recorded. But you see, we are, in the period of an election year, so people are suppressing these things for their political benefit. But Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari has promised that he's going to hand over, a more secure, because you cannot eliminate insecurity. Nowhere. It can never be zero in any part of the world. America is still seen as insecure because of, people coming to, shooting. So, but the level of insecurity, which was experienced in this country some years, a couple of years back, even within the tenure of this administration, has gone down, and I have to give kudos to the Chief of Defense Staff and his service chiefs, his colleagues who are service chiefs. Kaduna now, you can see, he's no longer in the news. There are, banditry and everything. So, and I pray that they step up in some other parts of the country, And then it's not just something you leave for the government at the center, but you need to equally involve, state governors. They are part of the federating units of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And not only that, you can't leave policing to only police. Community leaders should be part of it. Individuals who live in communities should be part of it, because people who live in communities know who the criminals are. They know who are instigating bombing in all the parts of the country where there are incidences of bombing. So it's a collective thing. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. It is happening all over the world. But I like the current restructuring of the security infrastructure and policy thrust of this current administration in stemming it down. And I wish President Muhammadu Buhari and his team well.
All right. Talking about the presidency and the president, recently your party has a flag bearer, the president in the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and who has refused all forms of meetings, debates, and debate, so to say, and which is the fancy of democracy, and yet were granted an interview at Chatham House in London. And a lot of people have hailed that against him, seeing him as incompetent if he cannot speak to Nigerians about his well-being. What's your take on that?
Well, those things are personal choices. That I sit down with you now to grant you an interview, I just chose because I want to. You can't force him to do what he does not want to do. He has concentrated more on talking to the people in the field. He's politicking. He's serious consulting. So the number of interviews you hold with national TV, community TV, or debate does not guarantee votes. And how many people saw that debate that has taken place? I didn't watch any of them. So the market woman is more interested to see the man who wants to, and that's what he's doing. So how many people? Chatham is because I know that the people who vote do not live abroad, but he chose to be there because to tell people at home that he's not scared of being interviewed or granting interviews. So that's all.
Okay.
He has faced his campaign seriously.
Okay, recently, about 2 days ago, the former president of this country, who you worked with, President Olusegun Obasanjo, adopted peterobi as the president, saying if Nigeria must move forward this 2023, peterobi is the man to reckon with, is the man to be voted for. Do you see that as a personal suggestion, or is he speaking for Nigerians?
It is his choice to adopt whoever he wants to adopt. But the difference between his adoption is because he was former president. Okay. He has access to the press. There are a lot of local people who have adopted Peter. Yeah. Yes. It's their personal choice. So I see that President Obasanjo has a right to, but that does not mean that he has spoken to on behalf of Nigerians. Probably he must. I don't know, but he has made his personal preference, okay, which might not be the same with other people. Okay. He chose to go public with his personal preference for a particular presidential candidate. There are other people making their own choices, either on the basis of their being members of a political party or that they are convinced,
You are an Abian, and you also started your politics here from your profile. You started here, and recently the APC looks as if it's very unstable in this state. The other day the court announced Uchoga. After a while, Ikeche Menike, and we heard that this other one is now going to Supreme Court. That is Uchoga. And what is the problem with the party in the state where you come from?
Okay, the last judgment confirmed High Chief Ikeche Menike as a candidate, which means that his name is still in the INEC list. And I understand that Dr. Uche Oga has gone to Supreme Court. Yes. So I will not, because of the matter pending in Supreme Court, say further about the matter in the court. But politically speaking, the candidate of my party is High Chief Ikeche Menike. The party structure is headed by Mr. Ononubo. So, but I've been in this politics to understand, the true position of things. But I can't discuss the matter in Supreme Court. Yes. But politically speaking, today is High Chief Menike. And speaking dispassionately is the person. Legally and politically speaking, from the fact that his name was in INEC list, Oga went to court, a judgment came. There were several other court judgments, but the last was Court of Appeal, which ruled in favor of Ikeche Menike. So, but in all those cases have deepened jurisprudence, legal jurisprudence. So it's part of democracy to go to court. And it's only the party that will determine who is their candidate. But at the end of the day, a court can rule, But this is not the only time. Politically speaking, is even a plus for our party. I mentioned you when you came. You remember in those days, DPN had two lists. This person, like me, I was campaigning, Wogu was campaigning. At the end of the day, all our votes were married, and the party said I was the candidate. So I assume Uche, Oga is working hard, the Ikeche Emenike is working hard. The other parties are in trouble. So there's no instability in our party. But there's more political sophistry in our party. We don't fight. When you get dissatisfied, you head to the court.
Okay, upon all that, all your contributions in the then PDP, where you started, DPN, where you started, and later over to PDP, and then because we were almost relegated to the background, you left the PTB and joined the APC. Is there anything that will bring you back to the party, PDP?
No, I was offered tickets of other parties, including to run for Senate. I don't move. I'm highly principled. I'm happy with myself. I don't believe in what people will do something unwholesome. When you confront them, they say it's politics. They will blackmail you. They will conspire against you. They will kill. They will cheat. They will steal. All in the name of politics. I'm a politician with a different background. I can't do anything unwholesome. I can't be seen as being unstable. But in politics, it's a concentric circle of so many things. So if there will be realignment in future, I will weigh the situation. But I remain a staunch member of APC. No going back. I did not join APC. I did not join APC because of political patronage. I joined APC for what our people will benefit from the party in terms of infrastructure. Positions in any party are not guaranteed Ndi Igbo, Ndi Abia, any added advantage. Our people want infrastructure, not political appointments. So that is one of the basis of my joining APC, to see what, and I'm happy that even in the Southeast, that we are faring a bit okay in terms of infrastructure. Look at the Enugu Port Harcourt Express. Is this current administration? But we are pushing. I will go back now. I will write a letter to Mr. President that from Aba to Port Harcourt is impossible.
Yes.
Ikote to Aba is impossible. Since it has not been done by the state government, we need to push the Ikwano Akwa Ibom. But I will push because that road, Enugu to Port Harcourt, Enugu to Umuahia, Aba to Umuahia takes us about 15 minutes. Then when you get to Emeka, you turn into the one the state governor did and all that. You see, good roads bring development and it inspires people. So we are grateful that in the Southeast we have Enugu, and the Enugu Onitsha is being done by this current administration. So this current administration continued from where we stopped. But our problem then was funding. We were relying on budget. But the current administration now relies on looking for funds from elsewhere. That's why you have the sukuk. So every administration has its own policy style, policy trust, and everything. So this administration, in terms of infrastructure for the Southeast and the Igbo, we are fed well. That's why I went into APC, not for personal aggrandizement. That's why you've not even seen me running around to get an appointment under this administration or looking for what I will get. If it pleases Mr. President to give me an appointment before he leaves, I expect that I will be given a dignifying appointment that fits my record. So I'm not desperate, but I'm happy that I have served a party that fared well in the Southeast in terms of infrastructure.
Recently, there was this analysis and research by the World Bank They came out openly to announce that the 30,000 naira minimum wage, by the virtue of the current economy, is now about 19,000 something. And the NBS also talked about 133 million Nigerians. That's about 63% that are living in poverty. And then, you've talked well about the security, the security architecture of the nation and how the soldiers are working, in synergy to ensure that the security is beefed up. But what about the economy and, corruption?
Okay,
it's only in this administration that snakes swallow money and so on.
I told you from the beginning my political trajectory and my profile. I did not tell you the details of the committees that I've headed. Yeah. But now that you asked me the question, I said the country spends so much money exposing and training me. They still have a need for me. One, in Revenue Commission, I was chairman of the Remuneration and Monetization Committee that came with the current salary structure of political office holders and judicial officers in 2006, 2007. The first one had a dichotomy of minister and minister of state, and Obasanjo, then President Obasanjo, take home was not anything to write home about. It was less than $10,000, and the judges, they have a good wage. I headed that committee, went all over the country, and came up with what later became an act of the National Assembly. That's experience. And I removed the dichotomy of minister and minister of state and made it one salary line. And at that time, what we recommended was quite enough. The bad press they are having about that law ought not to have been the case. A minister and a senator earns about the same salary, 2 million naira. Then, there are things that are provided. There are things that are allowances. So what is in the press that members of National Assembly earn is not their salary. People should hold them responsible to tell them why is their salary bloated. Why are they using government cars? A public officer does not use any government car. When I was minister, I used my private cars. I never allowed government to pay for this. Those things are part of our packages. So there is what I read in the newspaper is not what is their salary. I was vice chairman to late Chief N.S. Shonekon's committee on salary fixing by virtue of being chairman in Revenue Commission. And that one was to consolidate salary in such a way that if you want to move from private sector to public sector, from share to government, you will move so that we have one salary structure, not government agencies having different structures. We came with a report submitted to President Obasanjo. By virtue of that, I was equally in the committee that started with Justice Begore, minimum wage. You asked me minimum wage. At that time, some state governors were recommending 42,000, 50,000 this. So when I now served in that committee, we concluded in 18,000. We concluded in 7,000 some, 18,000 as minimum wage. But it was concluded when I now became minister. You can see the reason why maybe President Jonathan looked at my CV and made me Minister of Labor. So when I became Minister of Labor, I was in charge of the salary fixing. So we agreed on 18,000 minimum wage. And what determines a salary is revenue profile. Revenue profile. Sustainability of whatever you fix. And you take into consideration cost of living, living among the citizens and inflation. So you take those things into consideration. What was sustainable that time was 18,000. Then at that time when we finished, the federal civil servants were agitating. So I headed that panel, assisted by Steve Arasen, who was the head of civil service. President promised workers on the day of work. So when I headed it, we came with 54.3% increment at the federal level because we could sustain it. But over time, our salary, economy dropped. Are you getting what I mean? So at some point before we left office, we were, finding ways and means without suffering the masses on how to augment. So for you to have a salary wage, you must look at your revenue profile, have a projection. So, and whatever you give must be sustainable. Because if it's not sustainable, you can't pay. Some of these are state governments are not paying even the 30,000. Because that is why most people are saying, bring out salary fixing from the exclusive list and put it in the concurrent list so that state governments can, negotiate with their workers and this thing. But the labor unions are saying no, because most workers will be shortchanged at the subnational level. So, my brother, the economy, Britain, do you know UK is going into, Britain is going into recession. There are many countries that are already in recession, but Nigeria is not in recession. We have a global distance. We went into recession and came out.
Yes.
There was a time we went into recession and came out. It's a global thing. So, you see, like I said, what defines every administration, whether it's in America or anywhere, is not really the president. It is the people around the president. You have a good team. The shortcomings of anybody could be, covered. So, particularly, I think the government has done enough, in a recessing economic world order, because it's everywhere. So.
Okay, Honorable Former Minister. Talking about the economy as we speak, the governors, Mr. President, and so on. After all these security wages we talk about by the state governors and so on, are they supposed to be on pension as well?
You mean
the governors, the presidents?
Well, the law we did not recommend, pension for public officers. What he recommended was severance. Severance is at the point you are living. We get the minimum, barest minimum, and which included maybe, to make them comfortable. But you see, when they go back to their individual states, they come with their state laws. Because the Constitution allows them to come with their own state laws, even with distributing money that has even come from Abuja. Section 162, subsection 8. After we allocate, they come here and they will distort it. In their different states. It's because they have their state laws. What they are doing in most areas are not the advice we gave in that our report. The advice is that a governor who has enjoyed a large entourage at least should be allowed to go home with 2 vehicles. Should have a house in the state capital. Nobody recommended having a house in Abuja or Lagos or everywhere, all sorts of things. But legally speaking, they have their state laws. But when a state law is in contradiction with a federal distance, then the other one should prevail. People have not really gone to court to challenge it. Like Governor Wike went to challenge the issue of VAT. So I think with time, people will go to court to challenge something, because it is when the court gives a ruling or a judgment, it becomes law. But for now, there are a lot of distortions based on what we recommended as at that time.
Shortly before we go down, you started with the local government. We were one time deputy chairman of the local government, and also at a point we were chairman of the local government. What is happening recently about the local government not doing anything? And recently the federal government accused the state government for looting the local government local government funds. Was it that way in your own time?
No, you see, when I was there, we used to go to the federal office on Mission Hill in Omaya to collect our allocation direct. And what was the allocation for a place like that? It was 3 million naira. It was 3 million naira. And you have salaries of teachers to pay. But we have revenue sources, which was enhanced. And then we were maintaining rural roads. There was street light from Aba to my village. Rural health centers were open. And it's just within that federally allocated revenue. But if I had become governor, I would have had a joint project committees with the state government. Let me give you a simple suggestion I had in my blueprint. No governor ought to pinch the local government, the local government monies, because some of them have security funds that are not accounted for. Assuming a particular state governor has 500 million every month, if he has a personal saving of 20 million every month, unaccounted for, by the time he will do 1 year, he already has about 200 and something million times 4. That's 800 million. That's why. If you have 20 local governments, I won't use 17. Okay, let me use 17. I'm from Abia. It's factual. And I had a proposal of the Isusu system. The allocations cannot do anything, even if you leave it 100% for them, because they have to pay salaries, they have to do this, they have to do that. So if every month you have a committee that will take legally, not steal, 50 million from each local government times 17, it is about 850 million. Then you as a state government will bring 150 million and add. A local government will have 1 billion. Then you ask them to bring their proposal on what they want to do. Then they will come. You give it and supervise it. At the end of the day, the governor of the state will come and commission that project. It becomes owned by the state and the local government. Then it will take 17 months for the money to go around. Then you begin a second round. So you've mobilized money for the local government. Are you getting what I mean? But this time you see local government chairmen complain all over the country, except some very few states, that they pinch their money. They give them money enough to pay salary. But me, as a former federal commissioner, I know what I influenced in revenue allocation. I know what I did for my... Okay, let's just not go into details, but the 774 local governments are sufficiently catered for by the federal allocation formula. No local government has any reason to complain about being poorly funded. Thank you.
Okay, now because of what you just said, mentioned last, that is to say the accusation by the federal government on the state governments, that means it's true. Because these days the local government hardly, like you talked about, hardly build roads, schools, and so on.
Look, I told you my own personal perspective, what ought to be. But do you know at the federal government level, even at the state government level, the information or security report or intelligence report available to a president or to a governor is unassailable. So if a federal government has come out to say that, they have facts. If a governor comes to say this is intelligence report, he has been properly briefed and he must have checked it. So if the federal government has come, they have concrete evidence to buttress. And it was just very few courageous governors that objected to it. Governor Wike said, no, I have not stolen any money meant for local government. Who else have come to report it? Okay, so, okay. But like I said, well, so that if you are not a thief, you come and say you are not a thief.
Okay, wonderful viewers. This is before we go today, Dr. Chukwuemeka Wogu, please, your final word to our audience and advice also both to the state and federal government on these issues.
The owner of Living TV, I've known him professional colleague. I didn't know he is just visionary. I thought he was more interested in doing his Nollywood films and everything. But he has come in to fill the gap existing in, I think it's a community TV, existing in
satellite television
in our own area of inadequate television coverage. I think I should recommend to people within his catchment area to patronize him. This is a good initiative, and I pray that he should go for the big license to own a TV. If we have a way of helping, we can help him, recommend him. He has filled the gap, and you know who I'm talking about.
St. Moses, the CEO of Living TV.
St. Moses, I will say this in Igbo, Birikwa, congratulations, continue. I urge all Abians to key into this TV station. Watch it, patronize it, and encourage it. And I want to urge the state government to support him. I want the federal government to give him a reach so that they can, you can, if this thing is played in Abuja, this interview, they will know the true position coming from somebody who has seen it all, from local government, state, and federal. And the commendations I gave to President Buhari, and the ones that they didn't do well, I said it. You get what I mean?
Yes.
I don't want anybody to harass him. I won't say much about the state so that they don't harass him. But you people have to be courageous.
Yes.
Say the truth, live by the truth, report what is factual. Don't allow yourself to be used by political parties or government in power.
Our FM radio 90.9, that is our watchword. It's the voice of truth. And that's
yes, you will go far. You might not be economically,
viable now,
but keep, Guardian newspaper. They started like that. Editorial never, and some people don't interfere. I hope Barrister Moses does not interfere. Because even some newspaper, I was glad to hear, Femi Adesina was working there, that Oji Kalu does not interfere. I mean with the editorial.
All right, viewers, that's the much we are going to take today. That is Dr. Chukwuemeka Wogu. Dr. Chukwuemeka Wogu is the immediate past Minister of Labor and Productivity. We've had it all from him. Still, your anchorman, Chinedu Madele. Keep watching Living TV until we come your way again.
Well, thank you. And I said my sympathy. I heard that your father passed on.
Have you heard that Living Television, the latest satellite station on SatView channel, is received all over Nigeria and Africa? You can watch Living Television on every free-to-air HD decoder, including Strong HD and CSAT HD. Why keep paying for monthly subscriptions when you can have fun for free? With Living Television, you can watch lots of wrestling, football, documentaries, and Nigerian films, including discussions and debates on current Nigeria issues. Watch free live matches on La Liga Spain cum Serie A, Italy cum Bundesliga, German League 1, and French matches on over 80 premium channels. Wow! You can also sponsor your programs such as live church services and crusades, political rallies, burial and wedding ceremonies, promotional interviews, announcements, advertisements, documentaries, and commercials. We are situated at number 1 Judges Street off Ikoregbane Road, Aba, Abia State. For further enquiries, call 0805 367 3900. Signed, Management.